合唱。ナモアミダ仏。
ナモアミダ仏。
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 ナモ仏。ナマンダ仏。ナマンダ仏。
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the February 7th, 2021 service for Tri-State Denver Buddhist Temple. We're going to start off today's service with the chanting of Junirai, which for those who have the blue Denver service book is on page 79. We will then have a reading of the Three Treasures by our minister assistant, Sensei Frank Miyazawa, whom we have not seen in a while, but we are so happy to have participate with us this week. This will be followed by a Dharma talk by Reverend Masher Mace. So thank you again for joining us, and please continue to join us in the future. Stay safe, stay happy, stay well. Thank you.
Junirai. Keshu tenin shokugyo Amida senryo zokuson Zai mi meo anda ko Muryo bushi shui ne Konjiki shinjo nyosen no Shamata gyo nyozobu Ryomoku jo nyaku shorenge Koga chorai midason Menzen enjo nyomangan Iko yunyo senichigan Shonyo tenku kushira Koga chorai midason Kanon chodai kanchuju Shuju melso shogon Nobuku gedo makelman Koga chorai midason Mubi muku ko shoujo Shutoku kelken yokoku Shosari akutoku jizai Koga chorai midason Jipo myomon bosashu Muryo shomanjo sandan Isho shujo gandhi kijun Koga chorai midason Kontai hoken chi shoken Zen
言少女名大山おひざ上如線の子が将来みだそん自母将来勝負し権限人図し安ら戦後尊厳上苦行子が将来みだそん小無常無我と薬尿水眼伝尿路一種説法無明寺子が将来みだそん依存無節無悪名薬無尿になく道不主任死心教非尊子が将来みだそん依存無量法勉強無償修悪知識往生不退死菩提子が将来みだそん我先微尊苦毒寺修善無変妙海水小逆前言少女者エセシュ上昇以降ナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブ doku byodo sei sai dohonbo dai shin ojo Namo Amida Buddha.
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 Namo Amida Buddha. Namanda. Namanda.
Hard is it to be born into human form. Now we are living it. Difficult is it to hear the teachings of the Blessed One. Now we hear it. If we do not deliver ourselves in the present life, no hope is there that we shall be freed from suffering and sorrow in the ocean of birth and death. Let us reverently take refuge in the three treasures of the truth. I take refuge in the Buddha. May we all together absorb into ourselves the principle of the way to enlightenment and become aware of his supreme teaching. I take refuge in the Dharma. May we all together be submerged in the depths of his doctrine and gain wisdom as deep as the ocean. I take refuge in the Sangha. May we all together become units in true accord in the life of harmony, in a spirit of universal brotherhood, freed from the bondage of selfishness. Even through ages of myriads of kalpas, hard is it to hear such an excellent, profound, and wonderful doctrine. Now we are able to hear and receive it. Let us thoroughly understand the true meaning of Tathagata's teaching. Namo Amida Buddha. Namo Amida Buddha. Namo Amida Buddha.
Hello, and welcome to the Dharma Talk for this service, February 7th, 2021. We're going to start off with a reading from the Jodo Monori Jusho, the passages on the Pure Land Way. Please join me in Gasho. The teaching and saving activity of the Buddha and incarnate ones was solely to bring benefits universally to all foolish beings. The vast, great mind and practice arise solely out of desire to guide evil people who have committed grave offenses and those who wholly lack the seed of Buddhahood. My fervent wish is this: whether monk or layperson, when on board the ship of the Great Compassion Vow, let pure Shinjin be the favorable wind, and in the dark night of ignorance, let the jewel of virtue be the great torch. Those whose mind are in dark and whose understanding is deficient, endeavor in this way with reverence. Those whose evils are heavy and whose karmic obstructions are manifold, deeply revere this Shinjin. Hard to encounter, even in many lifetimes, is the decisive cause of birth, Amida's universal vow. Hard to realize, even in myriads of kalpas, is the pure Shinjin that is true and real. Namo Amida Buddha. Namo Amida Buddha. Namo Amida Buddha. Namanda Buddha. Namanda Buddha. Namanda Buddha. So again, welcome. So this passage comes from Passages on the Pure Land Way. This is kind of a micro version of the Kyogo Shinsho, which is Shinran's premier work. The Passage on the Pure Land Way, in a lot of ways, is an easier to approach, short Cliff Notes version of the Kyogo Shinsho. And in it encompasses the true heart of Shinran's message and how we should look at the teachings from Amida Buddha. This particular passage I chose for a couple reasons. First one is it's, once again, still an interesting time in history. And I've been thinking a lot lately on who we are as human beings and how the vow applies to us. And one of the first things in this passage says, the teaching and saving activity of the Buddha in the incarnate ones was solely to bring benefits universal to all foolish beings. So, when we think of that, it kind of gives the idea that Amida and the incarnate ones, the other Buddhas, are outside of the need for the universality. So the question then becomes is who is the target of this universal vow? And in here it says universal, universal. The vow was made for everyone. The teaching was made for everyone. The passage into the Pure Land is pure and true Shinjin, the entrusting of one's self to the vow and to the work which has been done by Amida Buddha is done for all people equally. So there are moments when we look around us and we see people who are really amazing and really smart, and people who I look at and I'm like, I want to be just like them. I want to be smart like them and I want to work like them. And then there's people I see and I'm completely and utterly disgusted by them. So sometimes this might be some of our government officials. It's easy for us to look at government officials and say, I'm completely and utterly disgusted by you. You're doing everything wrong and I despise you and you bother me and I don't know how we can live in this world where this and that. But then someone else looks at them and they're like, they're a true hero and all these other things. And it becomes easy for me to make a qualitative statement. The vow was obviously made for good people. The teaching, you have to be a good person to get the teaching. It's not true, though. The teaching was made universally for everyone. The Nembutsu touches everyone equally. So in my everyday job, because I'm once again a student and an intern, and I'm a student at the IBS, and I still have to work a 9-to-5 job, I'm a paramedic. And as a paramedic, it's very easy to get very jaded. Because I see people who live in very horrible conditions, who may do a lot of drugs and drink a lot, who may beat on their loved ones, or who may be a constant victim. Something is always wrong with me. And all these judgment statements I make upon them is the product of human calculation. We have, as a society, decided there is a group of ways that we act, and I think that everyone should fit within this group of ideas, this little box. And so we're like, everyone needs to be in this box. And if you're outside of this box, you're bad. And we want to apply that kind of calculation to everything around us. We want everything around us to fit in these boxes. And so from that, we can make a qualitative statement. If you're not doing this, you're a bad person. If you're not donating this much money to charity, you're a bad person. If you make so much money, you're a bad person. If you're poor, you're a bad person. And Jodo Shinshu Buddhism is unique, at least for me. It was unique when I looked, in that it doesn't care about the box. It doesn't care about our qualitative statements. The entire basis of the Nembutsu, as it's given to us, is it's given to us freely and universally. It's just up to us to open our arms, our hearts, our minds, and ourselves to the vow, and to let go of the control and the boxes we put everything into. These are our creations, not Amida's creations. When we say the Nembutsu, the Namo Amida Butsu, and we say it from here, and we say it from here, and we say it in here, and we say it everywhere with our entire body, that is us saying we are part of this universal suchness. We are going to become part of this universal system. And this is completely divorced of my qualitative statements of good and bad, of in-group, out-group, of self and other. Amida-sama and the teachings of Jodo Shinshu doesn't care if you are a drug user who comes in here and falls on their face and smells horrible. The vow is given just equally to them as it is to someone who is a billionaire and comes in and donates all their money to the temple. There's no difference in how the teaching works for them. It is absolutely and utterly universal. Shinran addresses this a little bit further. And he says this is Shinran's words. My fervent wish is this. Whether monk or layperson, when on board the ship of the great compassionate vow, let pure Shinjin be the favorable wind, and in the darkness of ignorance, the dark night of ignorance, let the jewel of virtue be the great torch. Well, friends, no matter what we do in this world, we live in the dark night of ignorance. It's dark out there. Even in the best days, this samsaric world, this ocean of birth and death, which we are all sailing on, is always the dark night of ignorance. And that's not bad. Beautiful stars are in the dark night. Some of the most beautiful vistas can be seen in the dark night. But for us, we follow the star, the jewel, the torch. That is the Dharma and the Nembutsu, the Namo Amida Butsu. It is this wind of Shinjin. And let me translate Shinjin in another way. Of pure, true, unadulterated faith in the Nembutsu and in the compassion coming to us from Amida Buddha. That is our guide on this sea. And because it's a dark night, and because we're humans and we're curious, we are always going to look around during this night, and we are always going to see things we don't understand. We're going to be afraid of them, and we're going to love them. We're going to hate them, we're going to toss them aside, and we're going to embrace them, because that is human nature. And there are days that we aren't going to like each other, and there's days we're going to love each other. And that's okay, because that's the experience. But in the end, the things that matters is that we are aware of those things in ourselves, because when we become aware of where we stand in the world, we can become aware of the fact that I can't do this on my own. That I am not powerful enough, wise enough, great enough to overcome my greed, anger, and ignorance. And thusly, I turn to the great torch in the middle of the night, in this night of ignorance, on the sea of samsara, on the ship of the vow. And I say, Namo Amida Butsu. That 6-character name is my personal, me, Caitlin Masher-Mace's, liberation from this world. But it's not just mine. It is yours also. It doesn't matter who you are watching this. It doesn't matter if you've never watched one of these before. It doesn't matter if you ever watched every single one. The vow is there for you equally. If you're a temple member or not, the vow is there for you equally. If you're smart or dumb, if you're a monk, a priest, a layperson, if you're a PhD, or if you didn't finish elementary school, the vow is there for you in the absolute same and equal way, and it will meet you where you are. And when it does, or when it doesn't, when you question, or when you don't question, that's okay too. Because we're all on this journey together, and we're all on this ship together. The ship is immensely large. And you are then my brother and my sister in the Dharma, in the Nembutsu. And I welcome you with open arms, as do all the practitioners of the Nembutsu, even if they don't know it sometimes. So please join me in Gasho and think upon the words written by the founder of our sect, of Jodo Shinshu Buddhism, Shinran Shonin. The teaching and saving activity of the Buddha and the incarnate ones was solely to bring benefits universally to all foolish beings. The vast, great mind and practice arose solely out of the desire to guide evil people who have committed grave offenses and those who wholly lack the seed of Buddhahood. My fervent wish is this: whether monk or layperson, when on board the ship of the great compassionate vow, let pure Shinjin be the favorable wind, and in the dark night of ignorance, let the jewel of virtue be the great torch. Those whose minds are in the dark, and those whose understanding is deficient, endeavor in this way with reverence. Those whose evils are heavy, and whose karmic obstructions and burdens are manifold, deeply revere the Shinjin. Hard to encounter, even in many lifetimes, is the decisive cause of birth, Amida's universal vow, and hard to realize, even in myriads of kalpas, is the pure Shinjin that is true and real. Namo Amida Buddha. Namo Amida Buddha. Namo Amida Buddha. Namanda Buddha. Namanda Buddha. Namanda Buddha. Namanda Buddha. Namanda